being a black man coming in, being in a Mexican and Latino gang, I never had to prove myself. I never because I grew up with these kids, so they knew my heart already. You know, I never had to go out of the way to show that I, you know, had to fit in or I had to do certain things. I didn't have to do that. My mother, from my understanding, was married to a minister, and she had two kids from that minister. And from my understanding is my mother committed adultery with my father and had me and my sister. And I think that that caused a divorce from her husband and sent her down a spiral where she started to use alcohol and stuff. And at an early age, I remember my mom was drinking a lot and, you know, had been in and out of the house. My brother, one of my oldest brother, actually James, was gone for a long time. I remember there was a lapse time where he wasn't around, and I found out when he came back around that he had done 5 years in prison for a robbery. For me to get involved in gangs at 10 years old, run the streets, you know that I didn't have any type of parental supervision. You know, my dad was a man that I didn't know. Actually, I I met the man, but I didn't never had a chance to know the man. He was a married man, a player, I guess you want to say, but he was a well-educated man. He had his own construction company. He had a nice house out in Compton somewhere, and he had other kids. His kids all went to college. Me and my sister didn't, you know, we lived in with my mom in the projects, and there was a time that he didn't even acknowledge me as his son. When I found that out, that really broke my heart, you know, and all I had was a lot of anger, a lot of hatred. Was something that actually, I guess, really traumatized me as I was growing up. I don't know, I guess I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old. I have these memories of people in my house, and it was nighttime, and I remember there was music in the house. There was a man there in the house, and apparently my mom had gotten in an argument. They were drunk. I know they were drunk. But I remember this man grabbing my mom and trying to throw her out the window off the second story, out of the second story window. And I also remember my brothers coming and grabbing this guy and beating the heck out of him. And that at that point in my life, I even at that very young age, I knew something was wrong. We grew up on food stamps and county aid. My mom did try to get a job. She was working for a while at a Jewish home up there in the area, but basically because of my behavior, she had to leave the job. But she had enrolled me and my sister in Catholic school. We actually started, or we were actually going to Dolores Mission. That's a Catholic school right there in the projects. It's the same school that Father Boyle came out of. He wasn't there at the time when I was growing up, but he came to and actually became, I guess, the supervising priest of the church there after I had moved out and stuff. But I went to first grade all the way to the fifth grade in parochial school. And one day in the fifth grade, I remember this so vividly that the nun had warned me over and over again about my disrupting the class because I was a class clown. I played around, talked to her, didn't pay attention to the nun. And I guess she got to a point where she got so fed up that she hurled the book right at me, and it missed me. It didn't hit me, but I can hear how powerful it was by the bang on the wall. And when I looked up at her, she was, I told you to, and then I picked up the book and hurled it right back at her. I missed her also, but that's what got me kicked out of parochial school. I got kicked out in the fifth grade. After I got kicked out of there, I had to enroll in, my mother enrolled me in Second Street Elementary School. And that's where it all started at. That's where it all started in the sixth grade. And I was 10 years old, 1969. There was older kids that were in the gang that were living in that section that in which we lived in, that we used to always see them sniffing, huffing on paint, sniffing paint and glue and stuff. And they started to recruit us. Actually, it was a girl that actually got a hold of a few of the friends of my friends and actually influenced them into starting or running with him and they started what was at that time the Pee Wee Locos. It was a new clique that they started, and then everybody must have been about 10 years old, 10, 11 years old that started. It was a handful of us. I'd say it was about 5 or 6 of us that started.
And you weren't the only black from Primera Flats.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. Actually, the girl that initiated us to start the clique, the Pee Wee Locos, is actually a African American black female. And I don't think that there was as much racial tension between the two races as there is today, even though there were signs of it, because I do remember that around 12 years old we were in the park, and some brothers came in, some black brothers came in to the park at broad daylight. Me and some of the little homies were playing handball, and one of the guys pulled out a shotgun and just blew one of our older homeboys' heads off right there in broad daylight. Which caused a chain reaction of retaliation between the blacks and the Mexicans. But after that, it was squashed. After I guess they felt that the price was paid for the initial killing. I don't claim a gang anymore. Like in 2009, I got ordained as a minister, where my whole life actually revolved, and I stopped actually. However, I don't deny the fact that that's where I came from, and it's always going to be probably a part of me. And I also still reach out to those that are in the gang from my neighborhood, trying to get them to a place where either they need drug programs or whatever, and trying to help them as far as away from the gang and living a productive life.
I shot him 5 times, he's paralyzed, and since then he's right now incarcerated for a drive-by shooting he's done around the corner from where I shot him in Park Hill on a crib.
My objective is to primarily, first of all, keep the people in my community alive. And my second one is to keep them out of jail. If I can get them to work or do something else productive, then I'm winning all the way around.